Hey everyone, so I wanted to take today's video to really explore how to discern the amount of time that you will need in order to pass the SAFE exam. Now, this is a very controversial topic because anytime that you ask this question in various Facebook groups or anybody who's taken the test previously, they'll be able to give you their personal experience, which is great, but there's a lot of moving parts to this, okay? So I really want to focus on this video to really dive into various situations and being able to give you feedback that I've received both from my students who have taken, my course that I've provided for free here on YouTube, and also be able to share with you my personal experience of failing the test the first time and passing the second time. So, without any further ado, let's dive in. So, when it comes to really setting yourself up for success to pass the SAFE exam, you have to first look at your life, look at your responsibilities, and look at where your time goes. So, what I mean by that is if you are a single person or a married person without children, then if you have the means and the ability to either not be working or working less than 15 hours weekly, and I'm going to be very strict on that, less than 15 hours weekly, then I would say that it would be advisable for you to, if this is really something that you want to do and you want to get into it urgently into the mortgage industry, then I would recommend no less than a 2-week time frame, 2 full weeks to be able to study for the exam. Now, this still takes a lot of sacrifice though, because we have various things that we're involved in, right? We might have, a bowling league or a Bible study or a book club or kickball team or whatever that we're involved with during the week, okay? So it's really important that we get very hyper focused on the things that take up our time. So if you are single or you're married with no kids or no other responsibilities that you have to take care of, maybe a sick parent or grandparent or whatever that is in your home, whatever that case may be, I would highly urge you to use no less than 2 weeks in order to study. Now, what does a 2-week study program look like? Well, it looks like studying 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for 2 weeks. I'm going to say that again. That means 12 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week for 2 weeks. Now, the reason why I say that is because this information is a lot. Okay, this test is very difficult. It's not like maybe some other exams that you've taken before where they were a piece of cake, okay? This is a completely different monster of a test. So we need to be very intentional about how we spend our time. And we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what that looks like on a micro scale. But if you are someone who is single or married but does not have children or anybody that you have to immediately be responsible for, and you don't have a job that requires more than 15 hours a week of your time, then you can pass this test in a minimum of 2 weeks if you are studying 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, that is what I was initially doing to try to pass my test the first time, and I failed. Do you want to know why I failed? I'm so glad you asked, let me tell you. Okay, I failed because they gave the advice that I just gave and I did not listen. Instead, what I did was I had 2 part-time jobs, okay, that equaled about 30 hours a week, 25 to 30, I would say. Plus, I was getting paid to study for those 2 weeks. I was getting paid good money. But I did not feel like I was in a position to put all my eggs in one basket for 2 weeks. So I went against their advice and I worked those 2 other jobs while attempting to study for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I was not successful. My first test, I scored a 70 and I needed a 75. That means that I missed 5 to 6 questions. I'm not sure exactly the amount, but it's between 5 to 6 questions. Failing your test knowing that you were that close is a really sucky situation, especially whenever you were paid to do it, and especially when you're the only one in a 20-person class who failed because you were too prideful to take the advice of the people who had taken the test before you. So please learn from my mistakes, because I am the person that falls in that category. I live by myself. I don't have, a significant other or any other person that I'm responsible for, no kids, nothing like that. So I fall into this category, and I failed it the first time because I thought that those rules did not apply to me. I was very prideful. Don't do that. Listen to the advice that I give you here, okay? So that's that particular group of people, okay? Single or married with no kids, no responsibilities, or very few responsibilities, and the responsibilities that you do have are less than 15 hours of work a week or whatever, extracurricular activities that you're involved with on a weekly basis. Now, for people who are in the other category of being married, maybe having a sick parent or somebody or multiple people that you're responsible for that live in your home, or maybe you also have a job, a full-time job, or a couple part-time jobs. For those people, I would recommend no less than 3 months. 3 months worth of time dedicated to this test. Now, does that mean that people haven't passed the test with less time? No, of course not. There have been plenty of people who have done that. Plenty. And I'm glad that they've been able to do that. But what I have seen from the people that I have coached both on a private level as well as on a public forum like YouTube, I get emails all the time from people who tell me their situation, and they talk to me about setting realistic expectations for how to be able to pass the exam successfully. And when they tell me what ultimately led to them being able to pass their exam, I'd say 8 out of those 10 people who are in that situation of being married, having kids, working a full-time job, or a couple part-time jobs, or whatever the case may be, 8 out of 10 of them say that they needed 3 months. And the reason that they said that they needed 3 months is because they could only commit to studying up to maybe 4 hours a day. Maybe 4 hours a day. But I would say probably more on average, that was maybe 2 hours a day. But even then, 2 hours a day could still get you to pass if you give yourself 3 months. Now, that doesn't mean, however, that you can maintain doing 2 hours a day for the full 3 months. That means that you can do that for about 9 of those 12 weeks can be 2 hours a week. 2 hours a day. But then once you get closer and you have about a month left, 3 weeks left, then you've got to turn up the heat. And you've got to get more consistent, and you've got to really, really push here. Okay? So, definitely no less than 2 weeks. And 3 months would be kind of that sweet spot for people who have, children, responsibilities, jobs, all of those types of things. Okay? Now, for me, whenever I retook my test, I had a month. But again, I fall into that first category. Unmarried, no children, live by myself, that sort of thing. So a month was reasonable for me because I was studying 6 to 8 hours a day and I was only working 15 hours a week. Okay? because again, they were paying me to study for a second time. Okay, it's a very generous company. So that was a really, really big thing for me. And the only reason that they did that is because they saw that I studied very, very hard the first time, because I only missed it by 5 or 6 questions. So that's my advice. If you fall into 1 or 2 of those categories, I would recommend between 2 weeks to 3 months. Now, you might find something in the middle that works for you. By all means, go with that. But I'm just sharing experience, not only from me, but also from my students who've been able to share with me how they were able to pass their exam.